public service announcement. That we are recording this service and it will be posted on our YouTube page. For privacy, we do pause the recording during joys and concerns. It sounds like we're working. Yay. Awesome. Okay, also at the end of the service, after we extinguish the chalice, we will have announcements. We gather today to foster our understanding of our place in the universe, embracing the worth and dignity of all, supporting justice, equity, and peace in our world, accepting one another as we search for meaning, and respecting the connectedness of all life. If this is your first service at MVUUC, please note we are a diverse group with varying interests and beliefs, and our services are varied in format, tone, and topic. We encourage you to attend or view several services to gain a better understanding of our congregation. If you'd like to receive our weekly email newsletter, which is the best way to keep up to date with events at MVUUC, please complete a blue information card. Can somebody show the blue information card? Located in the back pockets. There's one. So if you want to fill one of those out, this will help us learn more about you and any questions you may have, and it will connect you to the MVUUC newsletter. Please leave your card in the new collection box on the greeting table. I'm not sure who to thank for that new collection box. Lisa? No? Oh, okay. So it is beautiful. So to the mysterious provider of that new box for the blue cards, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Okay, so please take a moment to greet each other. So we do this at every service. Folks who are here in person, introduce yourself to somebody you don't know or reintroduce yourself to somebody that you've met before. For folks who are attending on Zoom, you can greet each other in the chat box. So why don't we take about 30 seconds or so and just connect with each other, reconnect with each other. Here we go. Awesome. Okay, so the chalice will be lit today by Ginny Wolter. Please, yay, Ginny. Please join me in reading the words for lighting our chalice that are here on the projector screen or in the Zoom chat box. So here we go. The task for us today is to look into the multifaceted colors of the onyx and see the miraculous spectrum of color produced in the prism of a diamond. Yeah, so for all of you geology fans out there, that's it's a metaphor, but still cool. All right, so our first musical selection is, for our first musical selection, I'm gonna turn it over to Ted.
So this was a request from Robin over there, and it's a perfect day for it because obviously we've got our snow happening, and we've got a couple of other New Year's and snow-related music going on today. And I will say, for anyone who's new here, we don't usually sing such difficult, virtuosic Disney songs. However, we'll give it our best. It's not the easiest one to get around, but if you know it, then it's pretty tuneful. Yeah, I think it's familiar enough that we can make a go of it. And also, it's a pretty good UU song because it is about, for those who haven't seen the movie, not feeling like you need to conform to societal norms or the way you're supposed to be. You've got this unique power inside you. Just let it go, be yourself, that kind of thing. So actually, I think it fits pretty well. So this one's for Rob. And if you don't know all the words of the verses, you can always chime in for the big familiar chorus. The snow glows cold on the mountain tonight, not a footprint to be seen. A kingdom of isolation, and it looks like I'm the queen. The wind is howling like this swirling storm inside. Couldn't keep it in, heaven knows I've tried. Don't let them in, don't let them see. Be the good girl you always have to be. Conceal, don't feel, don't let them know. Well, now they know. Let it go, let it go. Can't hold it back anymore. Let it go, let it go. Turn away and slam the door. I don't care what they're going to say. Let the storm rage on. Cold never bothered me anyway. Funny how some distance makes everything seem small, and the fears that once controlled me can't get to me at all. It's time to see what I can do to test the limits and break through. No right, no wrong, no rules for me. I'm free, let it go, let it go. I'm one with the wind and sky. Let it go, let it go. You'll never see me cry. Here I stand, and here I'll stay. Let the storm rage on. My power flurries through the air into the ground. My soul is spiraling in frozen fractals all around. And one thought crystallizes like an icy blast. I'm never going back. The past is in the past. Let it go, and I'll rise like the break of dawn. Let it go, let it go. That perfect girl is gone. Here I stand in the light of day. Let the storm rage on. Cold never bothered me anyway. Woo! Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
Good job on that singing, everybody. That is a tough song. And I just wanted to follow up on what Ted was commenting about the song. Like, yeah, it's a very UU song for all the themes of, freedom and embracing yourself and your powers, totally. But what's interesting is that in the movie, in this scene where that song happens, the main character is under the impression that she has to leave her whole family and community behind in order to embrace her true self. But over the course of the movie, she discovers that she doesn't have to do that, that her family and her community can love her and accept her and embrace her just as she is, and with those powers that she previously thought she had to hide, which I think is also a very UU lesson to draw. So with that in mind, I'm gonna read the words, our opening words. And by the way, I have to remind everybody that today's service was put together by Melanie Stinson, who is currently residing in New York State. And she put this whole service together, and all I'm doing is giving voice to what she has assembled for us. So thank you to Melanie. Yay. She's on Zoom. Yes, thank you. Hi, Melanie. No, she's temporarily removed. I believe she plans to come back in the spring, but yeah. So one description of what we may call the divine presence, the all, the great sacred mystery, is this reading from chapter 25 of the Tao Te Ching, as translated by Stephen Mitchell. There was something formless and perfect before the universe was born. It is serene, empty, solitary, unchanging, infinite, eternally present. It flows through all things, inside and outside, and returns to the origin of all things. So now we will move into the reflection. And by the way, today is a little bit of an interactive service, so I'm hoping that folks will feel moved to participate in a little bit of discussion. And this is a heads up to our tech folks that we may need a microphone that can travel. So here are Melanie's thoughts for our reflection today. When you express gratitude or feel it silently, do you address people you are with, a deity, the great sacred or secret mystery? Do you go inside yourself and connect to something there? Or do you look into space and thank the universe or something else? As Unitarian Universalists, we bring with us a wide array of beliefs and a wealth of possibilities. There is so much in our world: the belief in a deity or a presence, the belief in reincarnation, the belief that we are stardust, the belief that we come in with a team of angelic beings with whom we evolve from incarnation to incarnation. Some see everything as coincidence, some meaningful connections, karma, or some kind of energetic attraction to events and people. Some imagine a mind before the Big Bang, an eternal love and consciousness. Acupuncturist and energy healing practitioner and teacher Alea Day shares this belief, and this is a quote: "You may have a feeling of homesickness, somewhere inside, feeling and knowing there is another place other than Earth that you might call home. Your time here on Earth is most likely not the first and only place your soul has expressed itself. Perhaps your soul remembers other places you have lived." End quote. Ilia Delio, who is a Franciscan sister of Washington, D.C., and an American theologian specializing in the area of science and religion, shares this in her booklet titled "A Hunger for Wholeness, Soul, Space, and Transcendence." She says, "Personhood is not a given, but flows from the evolution of consciousness to be a person who is to be consciously relational and thus oriented toward community." Berthaud describes neo-feminine consciousness as a fundamental and ultimate sense of the unity of the entire human race, and an attentive and appreciative sense of the unique preciousness of each unique individual composing the whole. It is a new consciousness of the whole that is organic and differentiating, a pattern of freely intercommunicating in energies that has a dynamic process of engagement. This type of consciousness opposes power, control, and domination. Rather, it is the consciousness of belonging, mutual affirmation, participation, and creative love by which one gives of one's own self freely to others. A consciousness of shared values and shared goodness, a consciousness of belonging together and of sharing a future together. This was the consciousness of Jesus, expressed in his deep relationality. And it could be summed up in this statement: I am, may you be. She also shares the following. Ilya Prigogine, whose work on complex dynamical systems won him the Nobel Prize. And he said that communication or consciousness exists even in chemical reactions, where molecules know in some way what the other molecules will do, even over macroscopic distances. Consciousness may be part of inanimate matter from the Big Bang cosmos onward. The existence of consciousness throughout nature, or panpsychism, suggests that mind existed long before human beings. Mind before the Big Bang. Melanie got very excited about this theory or belief of divine consciousness, or what she calls divine creative consciousness. So with that introduction and a few different perspectives on this idea of consciousness, different ideas of divinity or being outside oneself, I wanted to kind of turn us in a more discussion direction and ask you all this question. This is a question that you ask each other a lot, sometimes in their first conversation with each other, but a lot of times it takes longer to get to this question. But these questions are really at the heart of a lot of Unitarian Universalists. And I'm obviously not going to force anybody to respond to these questions, but I am curious if we have anyone who would like to share their thoughts. And I think we have a small enough group today that we could just do individual responses rather than doing small groups. But questions, where are you in the wide spectrum of spiritual beliefs? And, you may be somewhere one day and somewhere else another day. It's like if somebody asks me my favorite song, I'm like, well, what day of the week is it? Right? So, and another way of thinking about this song, this question is, how did you arrive at your beliefs and know they best suit you? So again, this might be a question whose response is in flux. I think that's perfectly normal, actually. And just to get the discussion started, I always tell my students, like, I'm not going to ask you a question that I'm not willing to answer myself. So to give you some more time to think also, I'll just mention that I actually grew up Christian. I was raised in an Episcopalian church, which is kind of like Catholicism light. And it was just part of my culture. It was part of my community to go to this place every Sunday, to see the same people that you've known for years. It's something we did as a family. But to be honest, I don't think it ever really reached me fully. And so, when I was in college, I kind of drifted away from Christianity. It just didn't speak to me anymore. So, my spiritual beliefs today, man, they're always changing, actually. It's interesting. It kind of depends on what I've read most recently, or what I've taken inspiration from most recently. This is actually one of the reasons why the UUA is shifting from our 6 sources to sort of open it up a little more, because they recognize that people take inspiration from all different things. But you might remember I did a presentation recently about a book called Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. And that has really become my spiritual inspiration recently. Just finding relationship with the land, with the creatures that we share this land with, thinking about ways that we can be more responsible in our obligations. You know, we owe everything to this world, to this land, and how can we give back? So that's what I've been thinking about. What are your thoughts? Anybody want to share where you are on your spiritual journey? Lexi, would you like to talk? Yeah.
Hello, I think you just heard my name. My name is Lexi, and on my spectrum, I am kind of everywhere. I have tried over 10 different spiritualities and religions, and that's kind of how I arrived here, because I noticed there's common points in all of them, and that's there's energy in everything, and the spirit grows just the same as the body. And something that I do to show gratefulness is I thank my food. As odd as that may sound, I thank my food for it giving me its life, because everything has had life before it reached to you, and you're continuing your life because of it. So that's, I felt my spirit grow every day since I've started my spiritual journey. So that's how I know it fits me, because I feel myself growing on the inside, not just the outside.
Thanks. I appreciate that a lot. Especially giving thanks to your food, right? Our survival depends on other things giving us that life, sometimes sacrificing their lives for us to sustain us, right? And so showing gratitude for every meal is a great practice. Yeah. Other thoughts?
Hi. So I'm 100% white, and actually on Ancestry.com, my ancestors come from Prussia. But I have, like, since earliest times subscribed to Native beliefs. And funny story how I came across it was, well, not even came across, but a lot of you are old enough to remember TV in the early 60s, late 50s, and everything was how the West was won, and cowboys and Indians, and we just, that was just like every Saturday and Saturday morning. And I remember as a kid, like, even like 3 or 4, watching like the cowboys and Indians, and I was like, man, I'd rather ride a horse than sit in a wagon. And and then it sort of became like, how come they're winning battles sometimes when they just got bows and arrows? And just over time, just our family was just very camping all the time and stuff. And it's just, the whole thing just has just since childhood more and more kind of just coalesced in my mind. And my family jokingly calls me the family Indian, and it's not even like I'm vocal about it, or that I am vocal about environmentalism, but that's a whole nother thing. But it's just been a growing thing. And so where I'm at is I've been participating in some Native things. This summer I went to a really cool Anishinaabe language and culture camp up in Manistee, and it's open to the public. Welcome, like, just community members everywhere, very welcoming experience, highly recommend it. And I hope to go back again this year. And I've got a few other things lined up that I'd like to do. So kind of more trying to find a tribe, no pun intended, group of people that, just to kind of share. And that's a lot of why I'm here, because there's like-minded people here too.
Thanks for that. And what I really appreciate about your comments is, the recognition that you grew up probably with some images of Indigenous people that were not the best, and not based in reality. And that's true for so many marginalized groups in the United States. And like sifting through the myths and the stereotypes to find the reality is a lifelong journey. And yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing. Robin.
Hi, everyone. I'm Robin. So I grew up like completely like like religion was just not a thing, like at all, which is really weird. I didn't realize how weird that was until like graduate school. And it wasn't like my parents were even like vehement atheists or like, it just was not a thing, didn't exist. You know, I grew up outside of San Francisco, so I was always exposed to like, you know, people of many different faiths and religions and backgrounds, but it was very private. Like no one, like you don't talk about religion like at all. So I knew it was a thing, but never really, I don't think I genuinely learned what like church meant until I was like in college. Like I didn't understand the concept. And so, a story that I always think of, like for me, is so when I was in first grade, we went on a trip to the zoo, a field trip, and I remember we were over by like the ape enclosure, you know, and it was kind of more of like a dome, so like the apes could kind of like come up closer to you and you could go closer to them, like this glass. And I was like 6 or 7 years old and I was standing there and this little like chimpanzee like wanders up to me that's about the same size as me. And I remember just like staring at it, and like I was so little that I couldn't really like put it into words, like how I was feeling. But I just had this like absolute moment where I was like, why does this monkey look exactly like me? Like we're communicating, like, like we were like, you know, bodily communicating and that kind of thing. And I was just like, it wasn't like freaked out in a bad way, but I was just like so conscious of that. And then later on, and I still make this joke and my mom still has it, you know, when you're like very little in grade school, you have to do those little like like not even essay, but like you write a few sentences about like a picture. And there was one with monkeys and I wrote, monkeys are just like us, except they swing in trees or something. So I was like, okay, I was a Darwinist, like from the beginning, like didn't even know. But I think to me that kind of sets like kind of my basis for like not just spiritual beliefs, but it was always very based in like science, I guess. Like I don't really know how to describe that, but I had no like spiritual or religious background at all. But I think like a lot of, you know, like edgy middle schoolers, I did a lot of reading on many different types of religions, like Hinduism, like Wicca, New Age paganism, but like also a lot of like ancient like Greek myths and stuff like that. And like, it just like, none of it worked for me. I thought of it more as like metaphor, if that makes sense, as like the whole, like, you know, there's different, and it's kind of one of those things where, you know, like in Norse mythology, like the Norse gods like look like the Norse people because, you know, and like, you know, in Chinese mythology, like the gods look like Chinese people, you know, because like that's who's doing that. And that's kind of how I've always interpreted different like religions and backgrounds and mythologies and that kind of thing. So to me, it's always been very like culturally based, I guess, kind of more like cultural metaphor. So now I'm kind of just at a point where I was always a UU and I didn't know until I drove by this place and was like, what is this?
I think we actually have a sign message that says, are you and you don't know it?
Yeah, and that's what it was for me. Like I had no idea. I was just like UU the entire time, like since I was a child, and I just didn't know because I had never heard of UUism. And so I think like as I'm a little older, my beliefs are kind of more based in like helping others and like connecting with other people. And kind of like what Lexi said, like I think food is also like a big component of that spiritually, because like we all eat, you know, like we all, like regardless of who you are, like everybody eats. And so to me, like food is also a big kind of spiritual situation. And to me, I guess like the way that I'm grateful or give thanks or show my gratitude is just by like, I don't know, being a good person. And there's no kind of like, I don't believe in the concept of like an afterlife at all, heaven or hell. So like, I'm just a good person, like, because, yeah, like, and just kind of being a good person and, you know, always like, I'm a huge extrovert, like spending time with other people to me is kind of, and having a meal with someone else to me is like the biggest form of like spiritual connection. So that's kind of where I am right now.
Thanks, Robin. I really like your story about the chimpanzee, especially because it ties in with what Melanie is talking about with regard to consciousness. And for those of us who, you know, really subscribe to this UU principle of interdependence, it's not just a recognition that we all inhabit the earth together, but it's that we all have some level of consciousness. And at 6 years old, you recognize that, you know, shared consciousness Which I think a lot of kids do. You know, you look into the eyes of your pet and you see, you see love, you see a personality. So, okay, I think we have a few more minutes left if anybody else wants to speak. John, go ahead.
Hello, I'm
Hello.
John. I mean, I'm sure how I arrived at my beliefs is definitely my mother's here. So there was a lot of PBS and Joseph Campbell, and we even went to a Unitarian church for a period. I went to Christian churches, and I think some of my first changes in religion were from the more Christian I felt like I was becoming, the less I felt like most Christians or churches were being Christian. And it started to kind of push me away. But then literature, everything from Ursula, a lot of sci-fi literature, Ursula Le Guin, Douglas Adams. Ursula Le Guin's a Taoist. Douglas Adams is atheist. But I think from his books, actually, and then just thinking about it more, I've just realized how much everything comes down to probability. And so much of our awe comes from encountering things that are less probable or improbable. And so many of us seek comfort in the probable. And so much of how you get through life comes from how you deal with those varying probabilities of things happening. And your station in life often comes from random chance. I'll keep that short. I'll stop there. But anyone want the
thanks.
microphone?
Noah.
Yeah, so my name's Noah. I grew up like very Christian actually, and it never really like as I got older and I started to recognize, I guess, like the hypocrisies within the church, it really just didn't resonate with me very well, and I just didn't understand like how people could act the way that they act when we're preaching one way and like living another way. And ironically enough, this is probably odd to most people who don't really recognize like military culture, but the military actually opened me up to other other things, because in basic training they like allow you to go to church services on Sunday, and there was like a lot of different services that you could go to essentially. And so I was like, oh, like I didn't even know some of these religions existed, let alone like were practiced within the military. So like getting to like be exposed to that and kind of see like other ways of like worshiping or like connecting with the universe, like that was very like interesting to me, and kind of just like set me like onto okay, like if Christianity isn't the only religion, like what's out there, like, and but also like recognizing like as you go through like looking at these different religions, like a lot of them have very common like creation stories, such things like that. And so seeing like, okay, like maybe they can agree on certain things, but the way that you choose to practice throughout life, like that's the big differential kind of thing. And so like I'm still kind of in that in between of like where do I sit? I think I sit more spiritually, definitely. And I think that just resonates more with me. But it's definitely like hard. I find it like overwhelming, just the amount of literature, I guess, out there where you're like, okay, like this is awesome that I'm taking all this in, but like where can I go to kind of discuss it? And I think like that's been the most difficult thing for me, because like I want to learn more about it like in an accurate depiction, not just like, okay, I'm reading this and I'm interpreting it this way, but if I don't have all the information, okay, like am I interpreting it accurately, I guess. So yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at, I think, with mine.
That sounds very, that's a very relatable story, Noah, to how a lot of folks, I think, come into Unitarian Universalist congregations. And yeah, knowing that there is no one right way, that realization is so huge for a lot of folks. And yeah, I wish we were, sometimes I do wish UUism was more like, hey, it's like a university where you can come and study all the, and I think some UU congregations do put an emphasis on that. And we try to explore that here, but there's just so much to know. Yeah. So that's the great thing about everybody bringing their knowledge into the community, which is really helpful. Laura, and I think this will be the last one.
Okay. I think I'll try to keep this brief. I arrived at my mid-30s or so after both of my children were born, at a point where I realized what a lot of other religions believed, and I realized that I'd been brought up in Christianity, and that was the easiest thing for me to practice because I knew a lot more about it. And interestingly enough, then pretty soon the PBS had the series with Joseph Campbell and Bill Moyers, where Joseph Campbell, that's the great, I think, kind of godfather of all of mythology studies, was interviewed by Bill Moyers, and he went through various aspects of spirituality, of religiosity and so forth in a lot of different religions, and shared the myths. And it was the first time I had really realized every religion, especially the three big written religions that are religions of the book, so to speak, Judaism and Christianity and Islam, are all myths and collections of myths, which he defined as great truths told in story form. And so I realized that that's what I had really come to believe altogether about all religion. And John didn't tell you that he was thrown out of his first UU church. I got a call from the RE director telling me that he sang all the way through, and his non-practicing Jewish Sunday school teacher just couldn't take it anymore. It gave her a headache every Sunday. And that I was going to have to sit him up in the choir loft with me or something, because he was just too disruptive. And he accused her of thinking every religion was all right and discussing every religion and teaching the kids about every religion except Christianity. And he wanted to know why that was.
Questioning you from a young age.
Yes. And she told me also that she thought he would make a wonderful UU minister when he grew up. And so, but I'll top that off with just the story of the night we were all assembled at my mother's for my stepfather's funeral. And I was very close to my stepfather. He was a very good stepfather. And when he died up in his late 70s, it might have been his 80th year, I can't remember. But at any rate, he had been driving this old banana yellow big fin Cadillac for years. That was a classic car, and he was just crazy about that car. And at midnight that night, and this really just ripped open all of my beliefs that there was nothing beyond myths, that were all true, and that you could choose what you wanted to follow. At midnight, the horn on that Cadillac went off, and we couldn't get it off, and there was no one out there, and there was no evidence that any wires had been chewed or anything, and we just said he was saying goodbye to us. So maybe there is something out there.
Thank you, Laura. That's the risk of having a parent in the congregation. They're going to tell stories about your childhood. Okay, and Steve, are you adding to the conversation?
Yes,
we gotta move, so just real brief, yeah?
Look, I'll try.
Okay.
Laura said she was going to be brief, and okay, anyway.
Sorry, go ahead. Take
So
as much time
I've
as you
had
want.
kind of an interesting experience lately. I've gotten back in touch with a high school friend of mine who lives in Douglas, Arizona. And if you ever look at a map, Douglas, Arizona is right down on the Mexican border there. Very nice guy. And we tried to call each other every couple of weeks. And it wasn't long before he started telling me how fundamentally religious he and his wife. And I told him, that's not my inclination at all. And he said, I said to him, but I'm always kind of interested in other people's perspectives. So he said, would you mind if I sent you a little book? And I said, sure. It's called The Case for Christmas. I think that's it. Lee Strobel, I believe, is the author. I don't know if that's familiar to anyone. So it was more like a pamphlet. It was just several, maybe 100 pages, and it arrived in a Christmas card from him. And I saw it and I thought, well, okay, I promised I'd read this thing. So a couple days passed and I couldn't find it. And I said to my wife, I'm looking for that little book that my buddy in Arizona sent me called The Case for Christmas. And she said, oh, I threw it away.
Oh, jeez.
If you know Lynn, yeah, that's not a surprise. I said, well, I promised Steve, this other guy's name is also Steve, promised I'd read it. So we looked in the trash cans and it was gone. And so I ordered a fresh copy from Amazon. And it arrived and started reading the thing. And it's interesting. I keep hoping that there is something that will just grab me and that will be irrefutable evidence of Christianity. I'm about halfway through it so far. Hasn't happened to me yet, but I have an open mind. And if I become Christian all of a sudden, I'll let you know.
All right. I think keeping an open mind is a great lesson to take away from that story. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for sharing your perspectives. I'm going to try to connect our discussion today to some of our UU principles, but before that, should we do a song?
Whichever order you want.
Little music break.
Music break?
Yeah,
Sure.
so
Okay.
Ted, you want to walk us into this
Winter Wonderland seems appropriate for today. I did not know it would snow, but I was hoping, so here we are. Also, fun fact, Ursula Le Guin wrote a translation of the Tao Te Ching. I don't know if anybody mentioned that yet, but so that was the quote that was at the beginning that we all read, and then John mentioned Ursula Le Guin too. And so she wrote a translation of it. She's a fiction author, but she wrote a translation of the Tao Te Ching, which is a pretty good translation. And if you haven't read it, it's a good read. So I highly recommend checking it out. Okay, Winter Wonderland, right? I think we all know this one, so I'll just accompany you guys and you can sing.
Make us look forward a little bit more to the Winter Wonderland outside. I'm going to do a really quick UU principles connection. So our discussion today about spirituality, consciousness, whatever you call that great mystery, if you call it anything at all, touches on three principles that I'll just quickly mention. Our fourth principle is the free and responsible search for truth and meaning. And in our new principles, which are supposed to be adopted next year, or later this year, I should say, we have a new principle called pluralism. So, not only are there so many different faith traditions in the world, but each of us individually have so many different beliefs and experiences that have profoundly influenced our beliefs. We also have the seventh principle, which is the respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. And the new principle is going to be called interdependence. So in the context of our topic and discussion today, we recognize that something greater than ourselves, whatever we may call that, is something that almost every person has experienced at some point in their lives. And then finally, we have the eighth principle, which this congregation has adopted, working toward a diverse, multicultural, beloved community, accountably dismantling racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. And that relates to the new principle of justice, which Tom is going to talk about next week. So I just want to remind you of the one quote that Melanie shared in her reflection by Delio, which says that she talks about this communal consciousness that opposes power, control, and domination. It's the consciousness of belonging, mutual affirmation, participation, and a creative love by which one gives of one's own self freely to others. And, if we shift to this more inclusive consciousness, we might start to learn how to recognize ourselves as members of a community, first and foremost, rather than as individuals. Shifting to this more inclusive consciousness might require us to learn how to recognize when we're not fully recognizing the experiences of those around us, or have not done so in the past. It might require less talking and more listening, more humility, the willingness to admit when you're wrong, and it might require placing the communal good above our own individual preferences. So whatever or whomever it is that you address your gratitude to and from which you draw your inspiration, I hope we can all find ways to use that gratitude and inspiration to help bring a consciousness of belonging into being. We're going to pass our offertory basket very quickly now. Visitors, we welcome you to donate cash in the basket or through our PayPal link using the QR code up here. What predominantly supports MVUUC are annual pledges by our members or friends. There are yellow cards in the pockets on the backs of the chairs to indicate this support, and you can put those in the offertory basket. And we encourage anybody that believes in our mission to consider becoming a member and to pledge support. Thanks, Ted. So now is the time for the sharing of joys, concerns, and milestones.
And now we like to take a moment to sit quietly together, and it's often hard to still one's thoughts, so I'll just play a little bit of very vague, sparse music, and then I'll just be silent and we can be quiet together.
That's what I just said. Uh, so this is from his 1933 book, Land of the Spotted Eagle. He says, from Wakantanka, the Great Spirit, there came a great unifying life force that flowed in and through all things, the flowers of the plains, blowing winds, rocks, trees, birds, animals, and was the same force that had been breathed into the first man. Thus all things were kindred and were brought together by the same great mystery. Kinship with all creatures of the earth, sky, and water was a real and active principle. In the animal and bird world, there existed a brotherly feeling that kept the Lakota safe among them. And so close did some of the Lakotas come to their feathered and furred friends that in true brotherhood they spoke a common tongue. The animals had rights, the right of man's protection, the right to live, the right to multiply, the right to freedom, and the right to man's indebtedness. And in recognition of these rights, the Lakota never enslaved an animal and spared all life that was not needed for food and clothing. This concept of life and its relations was humanizing, and it gave the Lakota an abiding love. It filled his being with the joy and mystery of living. It gave him reverence for all life. It made a place for all things in the scheme of existence with equal importance to all. The Lakota could despise no creature, for all were of one blood, made by the same hand, and filled with the essence of the great mystery. In spirit, the Lakota were humble and meek. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. This was true for the Lakota, and from the earth they inherited secrets long since forgotten. Their religion was sane, natural, and human. So please join me now in reading the words for extinguishing our chalice that can be found right here on the wall or in the Zoom chat box for those of you attending in Zoom. So here we go. Today, I pause to take stock. I count and appreciate my many gains. I rest before going forward. I savor the journey I've taken already and the distance I have come. Thanks. Thank you, Ginny. Now's the time for announcements. Does anybody have any announcements they'd like to share? Lisa, go ahead.
Listen, if I'm being truthful, I did not come up here to talk about the blood drive, but since you mention it, March 2nd, I'm having a blood drive, 9 to 2, and, donate, volunteer, help me out, let me know if you want to volunteer or donate or both. And I'm getting this much closer to food, so if I decide to have food and you would like to donate food or make food or bring food, please also let me know that, because if I don't have anybody that wants to bring food, we're not going to have food. But why I came up here was just a reminder for the women's bathroom. We have a little heater in there because it's cold as heck. And we need help remembering to unplug it at the end of a service day, or even just a day when we're here for whatever reason. So I'm putting it on the whole congregation to remember. So if we're getting ready to leave, or it's getting to be about that time, and you think, maybe I'll check the bathroom, please check the bathroom, unplug it. And that way, hopefully we won't forget and leave it plugged in, which did happen a couple of Sundays ago, and we were able to come back and take care of it, but it'd be nice not to have to come back and take care of it. So I'm putting it on everybody.
I have an extra outlet timer, so if someone sends me an email to remind me, I'm happy to just donate the outlet timer to the women's bathroom, and then you just turn it on for like 2 hours. It's going to turn itself off automatically. So
Thank you,
I
Ted.
won't remember those. So anyone who wants to send me an email, please do.
Yeah, good. I see Robin has an announcement, so I have an announcement, but I'm missing a key piece of information. So if somebody from the board can remind me when the congregational retreat is going to be, I'll come back to that. Robin?
Hi, everyone. I have a few announcements. I'm Robin. So first, I think Tom and I today during potluck, we're going to have our very first Step Zero subcommittee meeting about the Memorial Garden that we're hoping to start up. So if you're interested in that, we'll just be chatting during potluck. So come over and talk to us about having a Memorial Garden at MVUC. Just right now, like Tom and I are just going to be chatting during potluck. So if you're interested, come chat with us. Second, the fellowship committee, which is me right now, I'm hoping on starting having actual committee meetings, and it's looking like they're going to be the last Tuesday of the month on Zoom. I will get some more information out. I'll get that in the newsletter. Also, we're in the process right now of working on when the game night and the movie night is going to be for January. So stay posted. We're going to have a few more events as well. I am interested in the concept of an open mic night, but I don't know if enough people would be interested. So if you think that's a cool idea, let me know. So that's kind of a thought process I have in the back of my head. Another thing, I don't know if people are interested, but Grumpy Dave's is starting to have trivia again on Wednesday nights starting at 8 p.m. I'll probably be going, so that doesn't have to be an official thing. Another thing, circle dinners for 2024. I completed the circle dinner sheet. For those of you who don't know, circle dinners are basically just when groups of people get together, have dinner. You can do it at your house, you can do it at somebody else's house, you can do it at a restaurant, you can do it at MVUC, you can do it at a park. So this is our kind of randomized list of who's going to be hosting and who's going to be attending. It has people's phone numbers on there. I'm going to put it out on the fellowship board. So if you're interested, go ahead and check that out. And then also for anyone else who's interested, I know we're already having a potluck today, but there's going to be a customer appreciation potluck at Arlen's Good Beer today at 4 p.m. if anybody is interested. Okay, thanks.
And one final announcement, we will have a congregational retreat on March 16th. So if you have your phone handy, please mark that in your calendar, March 16th, our congregational retreat. It'll be a half day where we kind of reconnect with our UU principals, as well as try to deepen the bench, as they say, on our committees, recruit people for our various committees. So March 16th from 10 a.m. To roughly 2:30 p.m. 2:30 p.m. 10 to 2:30. Yeah. Correct. Yeah. March 16th. Good modeling, Charlie. Do what Charlie's doing, everybody. All right. So are there any announcements in Zoom, Tina? Okay. After the closing song, we invite everybody to stay for potluck. So yeah, looking forward to that. And our closing song today is Auld Lang Syne.
I don't think we were all together for New Year's, so it seems like an appropriate, post a little bit late, but better late than never kind of thing.
The year is still pretty new. Thanks, everyone. Yay. Thanks again for coming, and please stay for potluck. I welcome you to stay.